Welcome back to page 121. Today we're going to take a look at a class out of Unearthed Arcana, the Cavalier. Yes, if you want to ever play a knight from the Battle of Agincourt, here's your opportunity. It's going to be an interesting look at the Cavalier. We have had several in our campaign. I've played a Cavalier, Don Lockwood. I've already talked about Don Lockwood on the channel. If anybody remembers why I called him Don Lockwood as a Cavalier, please throw a comment below. But we're going to take a look at the class, Unearthed Arcana, and some of the problems this class caused when it first came up. Because Cavalier became its own class. They were not a sub-faction of Fighter, and then Paladin became a sub-faction of Cavalier. That left us with a couple of quandaries regarding exceptional strength and constitution bonuses, and I'll get into that as we go into the class. So that's coming today. Also, just real quick reminder, subscribers, please. Channel is still growing, but it can always grow faster and stronger, so please help out if you can. Also, take a look at the Patreon if there's anything you can do there to help out. That would be greatly appreciated. Done with the commercial. Back to the important stuff. Unearthed Arcana today. We're going to take a look at the Cavalier. The Cavalier. We actually had access to this guy a little over 2 years before the publication of Unearthed Arcana. It came out, I think, in Dragon 72 as an article for Gary Gygax, from Gary Gygax, talking about the brand new class, and we were playing it then. My wife actually rolled one back in '82 that she still plays to this day, Bianca the Cavalier. So Cavaliers, their bread and butter is chivalry, and I mentioned at the top about the Battle of Agincourt. There's a lot of stuff in here that goes to how the French acted at that battle, and I'll explain that as I get to that part. Character class of Cavalier has no prime requisite. As a result, they do not gain experience point bonuses for superior abilities. You must have a minimum score of a 15 strength, dexterity, and constitution, and at least scores of 10 in intelligence and wisdom. Cavalier must initially be of good alignment, any of the three, lawful, chaotic, or neutral, but then it can change later. Attacks and makes saving throws as a fighter, but gains additional abilities with certain weapons and modifiers to certain saving throws. Cavaliers and members of the Paladin subclass, see hereafter, are not entitled to the benefits of weapons specialization. So that caused a little bit of confusion right away because it says basically they're no longer fighters. So there was some question, could they still get exceptional strength bonus, and what bonus did they get for high constitution, constitution 17 or 18? And that does get answered later on. But again, like most things in an Unearthed Arcana, we had to do a little interpreting. In order to become a Cavalier, the character must be in service to some deity, noble, order, or special cause. The DM will help you determine this. They must always place honor, bravery, and personal deeds at the forefront of your activity and must adhere to the Code of Chivalry. A Code of Chivalry, not the code. Cavalier character must be of proper social class. If you start at the proper social class, you begin first level with a 10-sided hit die plus 3, plus whatever your con bonus is. If not, you begin with minus 1,500 experience points, 1 die 4 plus 1 initial hit points, and that's it. No con bonus yet. And then you have to adventure until you get to minus 1,500. At first you are a horseman, and then you have to become a lancer at minus 500 experience points. And you get another die 4, but again, no con bonus. And then when you become a first level Cavalier, you gain another dice of another hit dice 4-sider plus 1, and then you get your con bonus. So if a brand new Cavalier started out, say, with max hit points, if he started as a Cavalier, he would get 10 hit points plus 3, so 13 before any con bonus. This guy, starting out this way, gets 3 die 4 plus 3. So he could actually have 15 hit points instead of 13 if he comes up this way. I have never had a player go ahead and run this route where they start with negative experience points. I've always had Cavaliers just start as noble-born Cavaliers. And then it says here, the Cavalier's high hit point bonus for high constitution, if applicable, is first received as either horseman or armature level. Oh, I'm sorry, he gets it right away, so he does get it first. But that's I misspoke. Then applied each additional level from second level on. We had some argument there too, because I had some players that were arguing that they got the con bonus for each of the dice that they got, which would have put the Cavalier up in the stratosphere with hit points. But upon rereading it, we were able to defeat that. Humans, elves, and half-elves may become Cavaliers. However, members of the latter two races, that's elf and half-elf, cannot qualify unless they are of gray, dark, or high elf, or half-elves descended from that stock, or unless they are sponsored by a noble house. I've never adhered to that. If I have somebody for whatever reason who's a valley elf and he wants to play this, or a wood elf and he wants to play this class, I would have no problem with that. Cavaliers are not limited to the weapons that they choose, but certain weapons are preferred over others, such as a Cavalier proficiency in weapons. He will learn these before others. These weapons are the lance, required at first level, longsword, broadsword, bastard sword, short sword, horseman's mace, horseman's flail, horseman's military pick, dagger, scimitar, and javelin. In addition, elven and half-elven Cavaliers would prefer to use short composite bow. Now, it's going to contradict itself right here in this same paragraph. Only after these weapons have been mastered may the Cavalier become proficient in the use of other types. Weapons that deal damage at distance, such as polearms, missile weapons, and a two-handed sword, call into question the Cavalier's personal bravery, and as such are avoided by all except the most powerful Cavaliers. It says right here that half-elf and elves can use a bow, but here it says that calls into question their bravery. We kind of threw that nonsense out. If I have a Cavalier who's starting out and they want to be proficient in a bow, I have no problem, because if anything, they probably hunt, in which case they would need to use a bow. Cavalier may use questionable weapons at normal non-proficiency penalties, but their use may violate the character's chivalric code. Character gains bonuses to hit with certain weapons as he or she advances in level. These weapons of choice, which with a nod to Fatboy Slim on that one, and their attendant bonuses are: first level, +1 to hit with the lance if used while mounted. At third level, Cavaliers +1 to hit with a broadsword, longsword, or scimitar, player's choice. Fifth level, +1 to hit with either horseman's mace, horseman's flail, or horseman's military pick. At 7th level, Cavaliers +2 with the lance if used while mounted. At 9th level, Cavaliers +2 to hit with either the broadsword, longsword, or scimitar, and it has to be the one that was chosen earlier at 3rd level. And at 11th level, Cavaliers +2 to hit with the horseman's mace, horseman's flail, or horseman's military pick, whichever one was chosen at 5th level. And 13th level, Cavaliers +3 to hit with the lance if used while mounted, and then it continues on like that. But you have to have all this build on a weapon you chose earlier in your career. So by 5th level, you've locked into the weapons you're going to use. The hit does not apply to damage and does not allow hit creatures that are only hit by magical weapons. Character may make multiple attacks with the weapon of choice, as if you were 5 levels higher as far as attacks per round are concerned. A 3rd level Cavalier can attack 3 times per 2 rounds, 3 to 2 attacks, with a weapon of choice, as opposed to 1 attack per round. 16th level or above, the Cavalier can attack 3 times a round with a weapon of choice. So that's kind of interesting. It's a slightly different way to look at weapon specialization. I thought it was unnecessarily overly complicated, but that's kind of where we were with what Gygax was looking at to be 2nd edition. He was looking to make the game unbelievably, but he was looking to make it more complicated. Looking at the Cavaliers table, 0 points to 2,501. To 2,500, you're in 1st level. 2,501 to 5,000, you're in 2nd, and so on. This isn't a real bad table. It's a little bit of a challenge, but not bad. It says 12 sided dice for accumulated hit points. That's actually a typo. That should be a 10-sider. And then Cavaliers gain 3 hit points per level after 10th level. So no more hit dice. The lance is the preferred weapon of the Cavalier. Proficiency is required at 1st level. Cavalier is a bonus to damage equal to the character's level of experience when using a lance while mounted. When the Cavalier is dismounted and using a lance, damage is +1. A heavy lance used while dismounted is treated as an all pike with respect to all specifications except length, weight, and speed factor. A medium or light lance used while dismounted is treated as a spear. Now here he's using what's essentially a polearm, and it says here earlier he can't because it calls in his bravery. So there's a lot to kind of wade through with this class. The Cavalier's expertise with weapons allows the Cavalier to parry with weapons of choice more effectively. You add all your bonuses as a negative modifier to the guy hitting you with your when he swings at you. So if you are a total of +5, it becomes a -5 for him to hit you because you're parrying it. And then the same with your shield. It's +1 for the shield and then +1 for each bonus for the shield. So if the shield is +2, then he's swinging at you, and you could give him a -3 to hit you. You cannot attack in the same round that you parry. Also, if you use the shield to parry, it can only be used as a bonus to your armor class against that one attack. If somebody's attacking you from somewhere else, you can't use the shield. To the Cavalier, armor is a badge of station, is a means of protection. They will always seek the best armor they can get. In the example given, in magical armor, so the +2 chain will not be worn if banded, splint, or of normal sort is available. So the Cavalier will actually downcheck his old armor class just to keep his appearances up. And that's kind of an interesting thing, and that is something we've played, but as the DM, I've kind of worked with my players with the Cavalier too. I realize it's kind of a tough class to just kind of be in the middle of a group with. Mounted combat and horsemanship are special provinces of the Cavalier class. Human Cavalier, but not an elf or half-elf, makes all attacks from horseback as if you were one level higher. I'm not really sure why elves or half-elves are excluded from that, except game design. They wanted to make you take a human, but I've never held that rule. This increase only applies only to horses, mounts usable as steeds by Cavaliers at higher level, and those mounts approved by the DM. Okay, so if you're riding a donkey, you don't get your bonus, but if you're riding a warhorse, you do. Cavaliers are virtually born and bred to the saddle. I'll zoom in a little bit. So you have 85% chance of staying in the saddle if you are hit, or 85% chance of being uninjured if you fall, because you know how to use it even in heavy armor, and increased by 1% per level above the first. So at 11th level, it would be 95%. As a Cavalier increases in level, he improves further on his horsemanship and handling of other creatures as mounts. Horsemanship's ability increases as follows. 3rd level, Cavalier can vault into the saddle with heavy armor and have the steed underway in a single segment. That's kind of cool, and that's actually been used quite a bit in my game. 4th level, a female elven Cavalier, and only a female elf, may handle and ride a unicorn as a steed. I actually had a female elf Cavalier get that, and it was actually my then girlfriend, now wife, because she was really interested in having a character who could ride a unicorn. She'd played this character. She was about 5th or 6th level at the time. So I said, yeah, why not? At 5th level, the Cavalier can urge his steed to greater speed than normal. The additional speed equals 2 inches, so 20 feet greater of movement rate, and can be sustained for up to 6 turns, 1 hour. The additional speed gained has no effects on the amount. Of course, you still have to feed and rest it. 7th level, you can handle and ride a Pegasus as a steed. 9th level, Cavalier can handle and ride a Hippogriff, and 11th level, handle and ride a Griffin. And then the mounts will be friendly as long as they're well treated, and they have to be, if you turn evil and you have a unicorn, then the unicorn's not going to stay with you. Cavalier's knowledge of horses is much greater than normal, so basically when he buys a steed, he'll know a plug from a good horse. And his average hit dice will be +2 points per hit die, up to the maximum hit points available when rolling the dice for the horse. That's actually come into play, and I've actually allowed the Cavalier to assess other mounts that other players were going to buy and give that same bonus to the rest of the party. Cavalier undergoes continual training and practice, so they only have to be trained. I won't get to that. I'll get in that in a minute. They continue to increase their strength, dex, and constitution due to this training. When you're 1st level, percentile dice are rolled for each of these abilities. So if I have a strength of 1825 at 1st level, I do get my exceptional strength bonus because it says right here. But I also roll for my dexterity and my con. Those don't have any effect in the game. So if I have a 1650 constitution, the 50% means nothing until I finally round that up to greater than 100, and then it becomes a 17 con plus dice. I'll explain how that happens in a moment. An exception is percentile dice for strength above 18, which is treated as for fighters at the strength bonus table. That ended the argument as to whether the Cavaliers got that bonus because it's right here. It doesn't expressly state the Cavaliers get the Constitution bonus, but we ruled yes they do, because they get the other bonuses, and what's the point of having your con increase if you can't ever benefit from it? So as you increase each level, you roll 2 die 10, and the result is added to the percentage you rolled when you started. So if you have a 16 Constitution and you roll a 92 at first level, and then you throw your 2 die 10 and you throw a 12, well, I needed 8 to get to a 17, and I carry the other 2 over. So I have an 18 or 1704 con, and that continues on that way. And if you lose levels, you lose those percentage also. And you can exceed your racial limits or gender because of this training. To advance in level, Cavalier must be trained by another Cavalier 4th level or 2 levels higher than your current level, whichever is higher. However, after attaining 6th level, the Cavalier's normal regimen is so stringent that he can advance without anybody training him from that point on. He makes all saves as a fighter. Such characters, however, immune to fear of any sort. Immune to fear of any sort. That's important. Cavalier's good alignment radiate protection from fear in a 10-foot radius, so that all allied creatures within the radius are similarly immune to fear. In addition, magical or magic-like phenomena that affect the mind are 90% unlikely to have an effect on the Cavalier. This includes powers such as beguiling, charm, domination, hold, hypnosis, magic jar, possession, sleep, suggestion, and psionic mind blast, but not the effects of a high comeliness, which is called out earlier in the book. This 90% immunity is in addition to saving throws. And interestingly, if I am an elven Cavalier and I am somebody attempts to affect me with a charm spell, I get the 90% immunity for that, and then I get the 90% also for being an elf. So I would actually get 2 checks before I had to make any saving throw versus the charm. Also for a sleep spell. We actually just had a game not terribly long ago. My wife playing an elf. I threw a sleep spell into the party. I think I mentioned this in a video a couple of weeks ago. Threw a sleep spell onto the party. She was affected by it. She rolled a 93. Her elf fell asleep. It's only about the 3rd time I've ever seen an elf fail a sleep or charm check, but she did. This also is the same character. And sorry, hon, I am going to tell it. She rolled an amazing, in front of everyone, 4 natural ones in a row during a melee, all rolled in front of all of us and rolled with different dice. It's the first time I've ever seen 4 natural ones in a row. And yes, she is still playing the character. She talked about abandoning it, but she is going to continue to play it. She just had some really bad luck that night. I have seen 3 ones in a row on a couple of occasions, but I've never seen 4. So my wife holds that dubious record at our table. And then Cavaliers are able to function at negative hit points, unlike other members of other classes. So if a Cavalier gets to negative up to their starting hit points, so if they start with 13 hit points, they can operate until negative 13. They can seek healing or drag somebody out of the way or anything that's not going to be a huge exertion, but they can't fight. You don't become unconscious, but when you reach negative 14, you do die. Cavaliers heal as other characters, but those of good alignment gain an additional 1 to 4 points each week for normal healing. Again, I don't call the alignment on that. That makes no sense to me of any alignment. And if you're a Cavalier and I've accepted you as an evil Cavalier into the party for whatever reason, you get that benefit as well. As a member of the social upper classes, Cavalier has a coat of arms and armorial bearing that he has to ride around showing, and this I do enforce. And in addition, at 4th level, the Cavalier has to fly a pennon on his lance in the battlefield. And it directs you to your local library to take a look at sigils that could be used. If the battle flag is lost, you have to work to retrieve it. Actually, I had that happen one time to a high-level Cavalier, and it became a little side quest that took about 2 nights for him to get the pennant back. That was fun. Cavaliers can expect full hospitality, food, lodging, and whatever else is needed, within reason, from all Cavaliers of the same alignment. Such hospitality is likewise due from all gentle, noble, and royal households, according to the relationship between various political divisions. So, if I'm a chaotic good Cavalier traveling the countryside, and I know that that manor house belongs to a chaotic good Cavalier, I can knock on the door, and he's got to let me in and feed me. This is where we kind of get into the Knights of Agincourt a little bit. The Battle of Agincourt took place in 1415. It was a famous French victory, brought out the propaganda that the English I said French victory, wrong, English victory, brought out the propaganda that the English longbow was this super weapon that could kill at tremendous distances, which has been disputed over the years. But the Battle of Agincourt, a lot of the French knights were just operating on their own. They would not operate in cohesion as an army. And even though the British were outnumbered, a lot of the French knights were cutting each other off and things. And also, the British were slightly up on a hill, and it rained the night before. So the battlefield itself became a muddy morass, and that trapped the knights and their horses. And there are a lot of things about the Battle of Agincourt. There's even some, if you watch some videos on YouTube, there's some pretty interesting ones. One's about how it was really just a crowd situation where so many people tried to jam into one place that they got in each other's way. That's some of the history of Agincourt. And everybody's going to say, well, wait, you divide. Yes, I'm not going a video on Agincourt. I'm just telling you about it. But the Cavalier basically has to operate under liberality, glory, courtesy, honor, unselfishness, bravery, good faith, and pride. Yet down here, it goes further into the code, and it says noble services cheerfully rendered, defense of any charges unto death, courage and enterprise and obedience to rule, which is odd because if I'm chaotic, why would I do that? Respect for all peers and equals, honor to all above your station, obedience and respect from all beneath your station, scorn for those who are lowly and ignoble. This includes knightly limitations on weapons and armor. So if the group thief is not going to get in good with this guy. Military prowess exercised in service of your lord. Courtesy to all ladies if the cavalier is male. War is the flowering of chivalry. Battle is the test of, I'll say, personhood instead of manhood. Combat is glory. Personal glory above all in battle. Death to all opposed the cause, and death before dishonor. Those last three are kind of where Agincourt comes in, because the thinking was that the code of chivalry the French knights were following made them attack for personal glory. Well, also there was ransom. If you captured an opponent who was a high noble and you captured him alive and relatively unharmed, you could then ransom him off. So there was actually dollars in play here for some of the knights, and that led to some of this. So I've thrown a lot of this out, and especially what's coming up. And it says the DM can reduce or eliminate some experience points if the knight doesn't follow this code. In the example given, if the cavalier dons leather armor to infiltrate a thieves guild, he would get no experience for that, for the adventure based on this interpretation. I've never encountered that situation, but I wouldn't enforce that. As a result of the code and desire for battle, cavaliers cannot be controlled in battlefield situations. They will charge any enemy in sight with the following order of preference: powerful monsters, dragons, demons, giants, etc., serving enemy leaders, then the leaders themselves. Opponent cavaliers of great renown, enemy flags and standards. Opponent cavalier of noble or elite status. Other opponent cavalry. I said opponent cavalry of noble or elite status. Other opponent cavalry. Opponent elite footmen. Opponent camp and headquarters. And then finally opponent melee troops, and finally levies or peasants. So that's the order the cavalier wants to spend himself in. And again, we're seeing a lot of the French knight example. I don't adhere to this. And for one thing, it says here, unselfishness is part of his code. It's right there. And yet here it says, honor and glory above all else, including a battle plan. That's contradictory to me. While cavaliers are initially of good alignment, there are cavaliers of neutral to evil alignment. Alignment change can occur up to 4th level with no penalty if the change is well reasoned. At 4th level and beyond, any change has usual penalties, which usually is a loss of level. They retain the protection from fear aura, but evil cavaliers do not get the negative hit point total. I've thrown that out. Evil cavaliers may use poison and are free to ignore the obligation of hospitality. The device of an evil cavalier is made known throughout the land, and good cavaliers are duty-bound to hunt down and destroy the cavaliers of evil alignment. Finally, evil and neutral cavaliers had limitations on the types of followers they can attract. So there's the cavalier. It's a lot to unpack. The chief thing about this was it was the introduction to improving your statistics, which is a brand new concept in D&D, and one that did cause a little confusion at first, but we were able to work it out. And I've actually used that percentage in a couple of different ways. If I have a cavalier with a 16-22 dexterity, I'll actually use the 22. If he has to do a dexterity check, I'll let him have the dexterity check on a 22 or less. He should gain some nominal benefit for that. He's a little more dexterous than a normal 16 dex would be. So it's just something I've thrown in just to kind of just round it out a little bit. So there you have it. That's the end of the Cavalier. I do like the class. I have a Cavalier, Lockwood the Cavalier. I've played him in a campaign my wife is running. He's about 6th level. And my wife has her Cavalier, Bianca, who's been playing since 1983 and is around 14th level. So, and her Unicorn Stallion is still with her. So that's it for today on page 121. I hope you enjoyed this kind of longer video. I'm going to hit the Paladin probably next. So stay tuned. I'm going to cover some of that. And that's all I got for today, though, on page 121. I want to thank you for watching. Thanks for your time. Please like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.